I think I talk about my sex life with my parents the same amount as like most people talk about their sex lives with their parents, which is not very much at all. I got home from AVN one year and I had spoken to the Wall Street Journal about my feelings regarding HD video and that it was actually kind of possible that my grandmother might find out about my job by surprise. So I called her and she answered and we're like, hi, how are you? Great, okay. And she goes, so what are you doing to support yourself? Because your mother says you're like a model, but if you were a model, she wouldn't say like, and no offense, dear, but you're a bit short. And I'm like, well, do you know Betty Page? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, okay, it's like that, except no clothing most of the time, and on video, and we're actually having sex. And she goes, oh, so you're a nudie girl. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, do you like it? And I'm like, yeah, it's, you know, okay, it's a job, but yeah, I like it largely. She goes, great. And I'm like, I have to tell you something else. And she's like, oh. Like, following that, what could you possibly have to say? And I'm like, so I'm using your name. She goes, oh no. And I'm like, man, if we got through the porn thing, like I really thought that was gonna be the problem, but this is the problem, man, this is bad. And I'm like, what's the, oh no? And she says, well, I hope none of the men at the home get us confused and try to put my feet behind my head. She had one of the best reactions that I've heard. Like, it's pretty rare for a family member to be like cool and like, I'm gonna joke about this repeatedly, especially someone who's a grandparent.
A few years ago I wrote a book, or edited a book, called Coming Out Like a Porn Star. And I created this book because I was coming to terms with the fact that I was going to have to tell my parents eventually that I was doing porn, because I didn't want them to find out on their own. I asked co-stars how they came out to family members, whether it was parents, siblings, or their kids. And I started getting all of these stories that were really amazing, and some of them were heartbreaking, and some of them were a breath of fresh air. But all of them gave me the strength to, and the validation to feel more prepared when I would finally talk to my parents. I was very relieved to know that they are supportive of me and proud of me, and they know and they trust me to take care of myself. It still is hard, hence the tears.
I'm really close with my parents. I'm an only child. I live 2 blocks away from them now as a 33-year-old woman. I don't think it's a strange thing that I don't want to talk about my sex life with my parents, you know? It just so happens that my sex life is my job. Yeah, they'd rather me do something else, for sure. My parents are like pretty old-fashioned people, but at the same time, it's like, they don't love me any less.
I was outed by someone. The plan was for me to eventually tell my parents, but unfortunately, that's what happened. We definitely had a strained relationship and like didn't talk for 2 years, which was hard. But I think it left a lot of time for my family to evolve and grow, and for us to find the tools on how to communicate something difficult like this. I think my parents and my family seeing how I navigated my career and the choices I made for myself in my career was still consistent with who I was as a person and who I was as far as like who they knew.
I myself have come out as queer to my parents. I think that was the first out that I did, and it was hard. And there were a lot of questions that other queer people face when they come out to their family members. They're like, oh, well, you know, is there anything that happened, you know, when you were younger? Like, did I do anything wrong? Did I fail you as a parent somehow? They want an easy life for you, and they're worried that this is going to make it harder. That's because there's so much stigma around it that now it's not going to be easy. And why would you choose to do something that's going to make it harder, right? They're also worried what other people are going to think. In doing adult films, I've been invited to speak at universities. And because I did adult films, I had the platform to write a book. These sort of like academic sort of accolades validated my work in sex work that I think my family members appreciated. It somehow gave it more prestige, professionalism, that kind of validation. And I think that it's so hard to come out too. And it speaks, of course, volumes to the fact that we even call it coming out in the first place. Whatever we're coming out as, whether it's queer, whether it's trans, polyamorous, a kinky person, or a sex worker. Parents of porn performers and sex workers can know what they do and love them.